Heat tier list. In this video, we're going to be going over every vehicle that's available in the CBT closed beta testing for World of Tanks Heat. Off rip, we're going to go ahead and talk about the ALVT. Now, this is a fantastic vehicle. Overall, great all-rounder, has a very good gun, has decent mobility, and let's talk about the abilities itself. So, the grease trap is a great zoning tool. You can also set it on fire. The cluster grenades is kind of in my opinion, it's a little bit better than like Raketta's rockets just because they seem to do more damage. And they're fantastic for getting your passive going. You can get extremely high DPM with this vehicle, and honestly, it's a lovely thing to play. We're going to go ahead and drop that in A tier. Alright, let's go on to the M50A1. So this is the Reaper M60. Honestly, it's a good vehicle overall. I don't really particularly find this vehicle to be my favorite. It has decent mobility. It has an okay gun. The gun reload is quite fast, but there's a very noticeable gun damage drop-off after like 100 meters. But it is a great DPM vehicle. That's perfectly fine. For its abilities, the little anti-air guns, they're okay. They aren't the greatest in the sense that they do very minimal damage, and they kind of don't feel like they track enemies as often as I would like them to. The ramming ability, fantastic. It kind of is where this vehicle is all about. It's its bread and butter. I do wish it had a little less spool up time so that it would feel smoother to use, and it had a little bit more engine power or top speed when you use it, but otherwise it's an okay ability. Its ult, Napalm, is great. It's a great zoning tool. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and drop this vehicle into B tier. Now, the Object 287. This is a vehicle under Raketta, and it's absolutely lovely to play. The Harpoon is just kind of fun to use, and there's kind of so much synergy with the kit itself. So the Harpoon, it will drag you into enemies and allow you to kind of get nice ramming damage off. And you can kind of trap enemies in a box with a little barricade and dip and go and heal up. Overall, it has a very punchy two-shot gun. The Harpoon is fun to use, and there's some upgrades that make it absolutely fantastic. This is just a fun vehicle to kind of just run around with, and I would actually say that the Raketta Ultimate is a lot better on this vehicle than on the actual T62. And the reason why is when you're using this vehicle, you get a 1 second reload between shots compared to what feels like a significant, like a 1.5 to 2 second reload on the T62. So I actually feel like the Ultimate feels a lot better on the Object 287. And we're going to go ahead and drop that into A tier. Now, the M60A2. I absolutely love this vehicle. It has a great gun with the high explosive, but also my favorite part about the vehicle is the heat. Being able to use heat in this vehicle kind of just changes the dynamic completely. You go from, dealing 400 damage to 500 damage every shot to possibly even getting 1800 damage crits on people. I believe the little 20mm cannons are far superior than the M60A1's little anti-aircraft gun. They do considerable amounts of damage, especially if you aim them right or if you get on the sides of vehicles. And then you also have the ATGM missile. I personally am not a huge fan of the ATGM missile just because it also resets your reload when you use it, and it doesn't have the greatest damage output. However, I will say the fire effect can be useful sometimes. And with it only taking 1.5 seconds to swap, it's easy to use after you fire your main gun, but it doesn't justify using it before you fire your main gun at all. Overall, I think this is a great vehicle, and it's honestly even better once you do get full upgrades on it, and for that, I'm going to move it to A tier. It would be higher if it was just a little bit better with the high explosive, like if the reload was reduced a little bit to kind of make the early grind a little smoother to play out on this vehicle. But overall, fantastic vehicle, absolutely great once you get it fully upgraded. The XM1V. It is absolutely fantastic at what it does, and that's stopping people from getting to a point. It's a great defender. Personally, it is not my cup of tea in the sense that I don't prefer slow vehicles. However, it is fun to use, especially because you can essentially link up your skills very efficiently. So you can drop your mines and have it track people and then drop your mortars on them. And at that point, they have probably been tracked or immobilized twice. And once they have the second instance of immobilization, I like to drop my ult on them just to guarantee a hit for like 1500 extra damage. And it's absolutely fun once you, and fantastic feeling when you actually drop that ultimate onto someone. I would say if you prefer that defensive playstyle, this is an S tier vehicle for you. But for me, I think I would have to agree. It has a decent gun. Its mobility isn't the worst. Its armor, there is something to kind of be looking for in the armor, but overall, I do feel like it is an S tier vehicle. Now, the T62AV. So this vehicle is a very good all-rounder. Uh, has fantastic mobility. It has a good gun with a good autoloader on it. It's not the highest damage ever, but because of the autoloader, it does have really good DPM. Let's talk about its abilities. So Pyro Trail, it's kind of lackluster when you don't have any upgrades for it, but it is still a good ability in the sense that it can repair your tracks whenever you get damaged or get you out of sticky situations. And the rockets are okay. They're nothing. They're not really that good. They're a bit too expensive. They don't do that much damage for how much they cost. And in general, they're just not the greatest. They're good for picking off low health people or kind of trying to take off extra armor bits from things like the AMX-10C or the FB4304. Other than that, they're not that special. They're pretty good for taking tracks off, but that's about it. The ultimate, again, Raketter ult is a pretty darn good ult. Not being able to die for 15 seconds is great. It means you can pick up a few more kills or escape a sticky situation where normally you would die. Overall, I personally love this vehicle. The only thing is, I don't think its abilities are that great. The vehicle itself is fantastic, but it has mediocre abilities. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in A, but when it is fully upgraded, I do think it's an S tier vehicle. The M51A1. I won't lie, I just personally don't like this vehicle. It doesn't feel that great to me. I know some people like the vehicle and they can perform well in it, but in all honesty, the vehicle is a bit too large for me. It has too many prominent weak spots. It doesn't have enough health. The DPM is alright in the sense that it has a fast reload, but the damage itself does feel a little bit lacking on the gun. The abilities, they're alright, don't get me wrong. But in all honesty, the APDS, I honestly think it's a mediocre ability. Generally, you just won't find much use for it. Sometimes you can in a brawl. It can be lackluster, especially against some abilities too. So any multi-hit ability, like any of the machine gun abilities, the cluster grenade abilities, the rockets abilities from Raketa, all of them essentially go through the shield because it only blocks like the first instance of damage. So it's not super useful. The canister shot, it's alright. Like, don't get me wrong, but you have to essentially be completely unnoticed by the enemy that you're trying to use the canister shot on. If they notice you, might as well just try and dip, because all it takes is them to angle slightly and you're gonna not penetrate your canister shot. Ultimate, it's the same ultimate as the HSTVL, so it's a pretty good ultimate in the sense that it has a huge field that slows kind of everyone and does about 1,000 damage and then jams afterwards. This is a good ultimate, and it's one of the things that does save this vehicle, but otherwise it does get outshined by its compatriot in the agent, the Twister. So overall, I'm going to go ahead and set this in a C tier. HSTVL, I am just going to be completely honest, this vehicle is fantastic, it's fun to play. Its abilities, the recon probe, to me, I don't really care about the recon probe that much, but it's great in order to farm points so that you can purchase modifications and stuff like that. The grenade launcher, I do actually enjoy. It's great for taking out tracks. It's a great supplement ability. Takes out tracks really effectively. It takes off ERA and extra additional armor pieces very well so that you can get full damage crits on your main gun. I think it's a good synergy with the speed of the vehicle. The ultimate, again, it's a fantastic ultimate, especially with the speed of the vehicle. It should be noted, when you throw the ultimate at an enemy, it can actually deal damage itself as well. So the ball on the ultimate can do ram damage, so it's about 200 to 300 damage if you are able to connect, and then an extra 1,000 damage from it going off, plus the slow and the jamming. Overall, for both the M51A1 and the HSTVL, the ability is fantastic for flanking targets and stuff like that. Overall, S-tier. Absolutely wonderful vehicle. M1E1, this is also another great vehicle under chopper. The minigun, it's a great D-tracker. It does pretty well in a lot of situations. One of the greatest parts about the minigun itself is it's a great counter to Raketa, since each instance of damage does reduce the Raketa's ultimate by a few seconds. So a full minigun can actually completely remove a Raketa ult by the time it runs out of ammo. It's great in that regards. The APDS it's a great defensive tool. It's even a great offensive tool because it allows you to get up and close and personal to other enemies. So it's great in an attacking position, and it's also great in a defending position if you need to keep yourself alive for just a little bit longer so that your team can come and wrap things up. Armor-wise, this vehicle has great armor all around. It's very good in staying alive and just kind of dealing damage. It has a very good reload. It's about 5-second reload. It's decent damage on the reload. It does have large drop off at range, but that's perfectly fine, especially for a vehicle that's supposed to be more close range and frontal assault. Overall, it's a great vehicle. I put it in A rank. FV4030. It's also another just kind of great vehicle. Both this and the M1E1 have the same ultimate, the Barrage. The Barrage is a great ability in the sense that it's blocking off a very large area and kind of makes it harder for enemies to traverse it. I will say it's not the greatest like instantaneous damage ultimate in the world, but it's decent for preventing people from getting to objectives and stuff like that. The FE has the little bastion wall that it can place, and it also has the jamming ability. The jamming ability, I feel, is a bit over-tuned in my opinion, just because of how long it lasts after the jamming effect field is gone. I believe it lasts for 10 whole seconds after the field is already gone, so an FE can pop the jamming field and then turn it off after you're jammed, and you're still kind of jammed for like 10 seconds. Overall, that's a pretty good ability, especially some against certain vehicles. It's a little bit more effective than not, especially ones that rely on their abilities to kind of output damage, kind of like the M60A2 or the T62AV. Even the M60A1, it's pretty good at canceling those abilities. I don't think it should cancel inactive abilities, but that's kind of just my personal opinion. Overall, I do feel like it is incredibly slow. It is incredibly well defended, but it is not my playstyle. I don't personally enjoy this vehicle that much. It is good with the AP, don't get me wrong, and it is nice when you do get crits on people or when you actually do penetrate your high explosive shell. The only thing is it is an inconsistent vehicle on how well it performs, and is completely based off of the enemy team composition. So if the enemy team is a bunch of light vehicles like HSTVLs and AMX-10, you're going to have a much easier time. But if the enemy team is all M1E1s and all FEs, you're not going to have the greatest time, just because you don't deal that much damage, especially compared to like an M1E1. And you kind of feel lacking in that response. However, I will say that it has some fantastic upgrades for survivability, and you can kind of become unkillable. So there is, in the Bastion, It allows you to heal you and friendlies near it for 40 health per second, and that can keep you alive for a deceptively long time. Overall, it's a mixed vehicle. I'm gonna go ahead and drop it in B tier. It's not the greatest. It's not the worst. It does what it is supposed to do well, but that's about it. And that's just sit in one spot and hope to survive for as long as you can. All right, let's talk about the Leo. Oh, man. Compared to what it used to be, I won't lie, I just don't like this vehicle anymore. Don't get me wrong, the mobility is great, the damage is great. The biggest problem I have is the DPM and stuff like that on this vehicle. Sure, you can use it as a sniping vehicle, and if you are a person who only likes to snipe in this game, that's perfectly fine. The problem is, this game isn't really built on the sense of you're going to snipe the whole game, and that's all you're ever going to do. A lot of the times you're going to have up-close interactions. If you're trying to get points and progress in the game further and quicker, you're going to need to be more in the action, because the game really has moved away from higher damage will get you higher score, and now it is completely centric on the fact that you need to go to objectives, you need to contend with objectives, and that's just not suited for the Leo. The reload is too long. The accuracy on the move is too bad. The time it takes to aim for good accuracy takes way too long. Again, the trapping shot is lackluster. It's actually, I would consider worse to use the trapping shot due to the fact that it takes your shell. First off, it does reduce damage on the shell, and the explosion doesn't really make up for it. There are some upgrades, albeit that do make the trapping shot a little bit more bearable. I personally just don't see it as a good ability. The decoy is always going to be a great ability in the sense that it has a lot of skill expression and can be used to block shots and everything like that. I believe the decoy ability is still one of its greatest abilities here, but other than that, the ultimate is fine, don't get me wrong. It's great for dealing single target damage, but most of the time the secondary passive of the ultimate, where if you kill a marked enemy, is not really that useful, as it doesn't happen super often. And even if you kill an enemy with the ultimate, you don't get an ultimate reset unless that enemy is specifically marked, which is a bit unfortunate. I did play a couple of games in this, and I will say there hasn't been an instance where I've able to chain more than 2 missiles together. Not saying that it's impossible to chain multiple missiles together. I'm just saying that it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to do it. Overall, in the way that the game currently is, I just can't stand playing this vehicle. It's a combination of its slow, turning, its low health. Another major problem with this vehicle is I believe it has the lowest health in the game with 2,060. This is obscenely low, especially for a vehicle that has no armor. I understand that it's to balance out the fact that it's supposed to snipe, but when an HSTVL has more health than this, it definitely feels very lackluster, and I just can't recommend this vehicle at all. Especially even when I see it on the enemy team, I never think of the Leo as a potential threat. I just see it as an XP pinata, and that's why I'm going to place it in F tier. Let's talk about the XM190. Honestly, very well balanced vehicle. I personally think it's a little bit sluggish, but that's for my own personal playstyle. DPM is great. The multi-clip autoloader is fantastic with the ability to switch between 2 different shell types. My personal preference is the smoke AP rounds, but the HE is fantastic as well for lighter targets. It's technically HESH, which means it does do decent damage against armored targets as well. The abilities, unload, fantastic ability. Probably, people consider it a little bit overpowered. I don't think it's the worst when it comes to overpowered in nature. I think it is alright in the sense that it does cost a lot of energy, it has a high cooldown, and it does take all of your primary magazine shells away, and you're forced to swap to your second one. But for some people, that's not really too much of a drawback. But the thing with this vehicle that I like is it's very much burst damage oriented. So it's about assassinating one target and kind of getting out of the situation. And I think that's perfectly fine for this vehicle. I do wish that the vehicle had a little bit less armor, in the sense that it does have really truly armor for how quickly it can assassinate someone. I would like to see like its frontal hull armor maybe reduced in some capacity, but with its sluggish nature, if you are able to get around it, it does struggle a little bit. It does also have the frontal weak spot in the fuel tank at the lower right corner, which is a kind of great way to take it out. It also does have the frontal ammo weakness, where if you shoot through the viewport, you can critically strike its ammo. I think that's perfectly fine to keep in a vehicle like this. Overall, I think it's a really great all-rounder, and that's going to land in an A tier. It doesn't have anything that's extremely special about the vehicle, other than its unload. The ultimate, I think if the ultimate worked more consistently, it would push like both the ALVT and the XM190 to S tier. But the problem is sometimes the ultimate will just miss currently. If it's fixed, I believe both of these vehicles would kind of be S tier, especially with the rising tempo passive, allowing for them just to get more shots off consistently. The Martyr. I personally love this vehicle. It's kind of goofy. Its ultimate is bad. I won't lie about that. The Fuzzer ultimate is a really bad ultimate in regards to just damage output and kind of all of its aspects. I understand what it's going for, but the problem is most of the time people are isolated when you use the ultimate, and you do lose some efficiency when people aren't clumped up together, and I understand that. I just kind of wish the ticks came a little bit faster for this ultimate, and it felt a little bit more impactful. But I prefer, like, the mines are fantastic on this vehicle. They may be a bit too much, especially since they can one-shot Leos, but also that goes to show that the Leo is just kind of bad, that it can get one-shot by an ability that some other vehicles can tank. The ATGM, the high explosive ATGM, it's actually a pretty versatile tool. It does pretty decent damage. It's great against squishy vehicles. It's great against armored vehicles. This is a great way to do a lot of burst damage really quick. The APHE on the gun kind of means you always will get damage off on your enemy. I don't really see it much as a marksman, in the sense more that it's a supporting class. I realistically wouldn't play this vehicle at long ranges. However, I do see the pros for playing it at long ranges, with the small turret being able to hide under behind obstacles and stuff like that. And that's not a bad option if that's your preferred playstyle. But again, I am a more aggressive player, and I kind of like to play this vehicle similar to a squishy XM, in that you can set up a defensive zone around like a point and wait for your enemies to kind of fall into your trap and take them out in one foul swoop. But I will be honest, that is my personal opinion, that I love this vehicle, but I don't think this is the greatest vehicle ever either. There are some drawbacks, especially in the fact that it is really easy to crit this vehicle. It doesn't have that much health to keep it itself alive, and its mobility isn't the greatest either, but it's not bad in that regard. So overall, I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. The AMX 10RC. In its current state, this vehicle is 100% S tier. ERA blocks so much damage that it feels like this vehicle has 4,000 hit points, and it's maybe even 5,000 at sometimes, even though its base hit points is only 2,300. The gun is punchy, very, very usable, very quick reload, decent damage. It's not the highest damage gun, but it is using heat, so no matter what your range is, you'll always have consistent damage. The abilities, the UAV works flawlessly with the top-down missiles. I do feel like the top-down missiles also do an extremely large amount of damage, and maybe it could be toned down a bit, especially once you get into the criteria of being able to launch like 4 or 5 top-down missiles at enemy targets at one time. It feels like a little bit overkill. Again, same ult situation with the Leo. I never really found a situation in which I could get multiple knockouts with one use of my ultimate. I usually able to kill one marked enemy, and then I might be able to launch the second missile before I die. But that's also due to the fact that I'm more of an aggressive player. That's one thing I do love about this vehicle, is you can play it however you want because of the ERA and the great mobility of this vehicle. This vehicle is honestly fantastic at playing aggressive. Overall, in its current state, it may be a little bit overpowered for what it is, but I absolutely love the vehicle. I believe the vehicle with a little bit of ERA removed would be in a perfect spot. Maybe tone down some of the numbers for the ATGMs, but otherwise, at its current state, this vehicle is a clear S rank. Now, for our last vehicle, the M3E1. Honestly, this vehicle isn't the greatest. I mean, it's not the worst vehicle in the game, don't get me wrong. But this is another vehicle that I kind of see as an easy kill due to the turret ammo rack. Honestly, like, the best part about this vehicle is the ATGMs. And when you have that upgrade and everything like that, it's a decent vehicle, don't get me wrong, but it is slow. It doesn't output that much damage. It does put a lot of status effects on people when you get like the fire rounds and stuff like that. But as a base vehicle on of its own, it's mid. Like, there's no other way to put it. One of the biggest bonuses for this vehicle is ERA, but most people know how to deal with ERA nowadays, so it kind of doesn't help out that much either. Other than that, again, the ultimate isn't great, so that doesn't help this vehicle's case. The laser designator, I do think that's a great ability, in the sense that it is a great supporting ability. Again, which makes me feel like these two vehicles from Buzzer are just more supports than actual marksmen. When you make a target vulnerable, you know, it does more damage and stuff like that when your teammates shoot them. And I think it's a great supporting ability, but I don't think it's strong enough to make up for what feels like a lacking in the rest of the kit with the speed, the mobility, the damage, the ultimate. Otherwise, the best ability and what I would consider the actual ultimate for this vehicle is the tow ATGM, just because with the upgrades and stuff like that, it can honestly be a very fantastic ability. Can set people on fire if that's the way you want to set it to. You can increase how effective it is. You can switch it to HE if that's what you want. At its current state, it can crit and deal large amounts of damage. But overall, I am not a huge fan of this vehicle, so I am going to go ahead and place it in D tier.